Hello, you. It's me. Today we're going to talk about Escaping First Contact by Tina S. Beier, which is the first book in the Burnt Ship trilogy. I'll pop an Amazon link down below. I'm going to go through plot, review, things I liked, things I didn't like. It's all going to be marked on the time bar. Feel free to click around. Set in a galaxy where humans are among the 5 races that coexist, although not always peacefully, members of these races are thrown together when a group is sent to investigate an enormous and seemingly derelict ship on the very edge of known space. They're forced to dock, they're trapped in an endless maze of shifting rooms, beset by both tempting traps and unimaginable horrors. They're forced to overcome their prejudices, to put aside their differences, to find out why they're there at all, and to make it off the ship alive. Straight off the bat, you will know by now that I give a huge amount of points for originality. And while this is not a super fresh story idea, it features a galactic society of sentient races, all of which, incredibly, are main players. That is super fresh and original. Style-wise, this honks of Alan Dean Foster, but then the body horror bits thrown in had Event Horizon vibes. They're very Cronenberg. And the horror elements aren't pervasive in this book, but they are peppered in enough that you are reminded what the stakes are. A couple of the characters do have combat backgrounds, so there is an element of military sci-fi that comes in, but not enough to choke out everything else, just like a cherry on top. The species in here are super original, and I think that's one of the biggest selling points of this book for me. None of them are like anything else I've come across in sci-fi, so it doesn't feel tropey at all. A lot of sci-fi books, when they're designing a pantheon almost of sentient races, will play on long-standing sci-fi cliches. Or they'll just reskin sci-fi races, fantasy races, with a sci-fi aesthetic. Like the short minor aliens, or the tall aliens that are beautiful and use ranged weapons, and the race that roams the stars and lives off their ships. None of that. Everything here is new. What a relief and a breath of fresh air. And you can tell that all of these creations in this book have a lot of research behind them. Where a lot of science fiction falls down is that they make a race and then fill in the gaps as to that race's history and backstory. But it feels like Beier here has built them from the ground up, if that makes sense, given them actual social background, which gives them actual justification for the way they think and behave, for their attitudes and actions, and it's so much more three-dimensional for that. It's obvious that a lot of work went into physiology and sociology, and there were a couple of storytelling devices that the author used that I really appreciated. Firstly, you have multiple point of views, often examining the same situation or interaction from different perspectives, and including multiple members of each species to showcase importantly that attitudes are not universal across all the members of the same race, which is something I think is often forgotten in sci-fi. There is intra-race division, and stuff doesn't talk about that a lot. A lot of sci-fi is like, this is X race, they are like this. This is Y race, they are like this. And it's a lot more multi-layered than that in reality, it would be. Also, everybody gets equal POV, everybody gets equal screen time. It makes a huge cast, and it is a huge cast, not feel overwhelming. And one of my favorite things about this book is that it isn't human-centric, which 90% of sci-fi featuring alien races is. This book is funny and right off the bat, and I maintain that it's so hard to write funny without falling back on sarcasm as a humor tool. But I think this book does really well with that. It had me chuckling a few times, and it did it through wordplay and misunderstanding and slapstick. I was impressed with the humor a lot and how it stood out against such a bleak backdrop. There is a lot in this book of aliens comparing their differences. And while it manifests mostly as xenophile sexual undertones and smut jokes, this book is pretty horny. It's good fan fiction material. What it does really well, I think, is to promote open exchange. People asking questions to each other here aren't offended by ignorance. They ask questions with an almost childlike curiosity, and everybody's very open. I think it's a really healthy way to talk to one another. I think it's an excellent way to world build because it avoids big, long passages of info dumping. You can explore cultures through opinion and personal experience and conversation. But yeah, there's a lot of sex stuff in here. I think it might put some people off reading this, but that's okay, because with the other hand, you're going to be pulling people in for the exact same reason. Couple of spoiler bits I wasn't sure about. The descriptions of each species physically were very heavy in the beginning of the book, and then really dropped off and were almost non-existent once they had been laid out for us. And I'm not sure how deliberate that was. Was it neglect, or was it an attempt to make us forget their physical appearance and judge every member of the cast based on their actions and choices and voice? If so, it worked. The one thing I can pull this book up on is the Deus Ex Machina ending. They're trapped in cages. One of the alien species who owns the ship, that's hitherto completely unknown, lets them out of the cages and is like, here's who we are, here's why you're here, here's what our end game is, these are the motives of my species, while at the same time still exhibiting species division. Still good. But that big info dump happened in the space of a few pages. It was the only bit of the novel that really felt like it didn't fit for me, and it seemed, I don't want to say rushed, but rushed. I wish there had been more mystery left at the end. It leaves me wondering what the story is going to be going into book 2, or whether it will be a resolution of all the things that have been established and revealed in that info dump. Regardless, I will be reading it because I had such a good time with this. This is a really fast-paced read, perfect for fans, as I said, of Alan Dean Foster, also Becky Chambers. This is funny, sexy, exciting, cozy, quadruple threat, and I highly recommend it. It is a laugh. So thanks for tuning in for this review. Don't forget to follow me on Goodreads and Twitter. That's linked down below. If you want to join our sci-fi Interstellar Book Club, that's linked down below as well. And if you want to join our Stephen King read-along, the Discord for that is down below. I'll see you soon for the next review. Bye.